Hey, this is Dan from Bodybuilder in Thailand. Welcome to my sex dungeon. Just kidding! Alright, today I'm going to talk to you guys about how you tell and what it feels like when you have a crashed estrogen on steroid cycle. So crashed estrogen either happens from not using a aromatizing compound in your cycle, or it happens from taking too much aromatase inhibitor. And the side effects of not having any estrogen in your body as a male are very severe. So as a male and a female, just as a human, having estrogen in your body, at least some, is a critical component to your well-being. Estrogen mediates many signals in the brain, and you will not function correctly without it. So I'm going to go ahead and just get right into the side effects of what it feels like for me when my estrogen is crashed. Basically, what will happen is I will so one time I tried to take trenbolone on its own. I wanted to experiment. For me, trenbolone doesn't aromatize into estrogen at all. Some people, they say it does a little bit, but for me, no. So, trenbolone is very strong though, like in the sex drive department. And, if you do smash your estrogen, you will have no sex drive. Okay, so, but, this is a compound that really stimulates your sex drive, right? At least at the beginning. So what I did was I took the trenbolone without any testosterone. And this is a while back, anyways, guys. Have not used trenbolone in quite a while. And do not plan on using it in the future. So basically what happens is I was on it for about a week, and then I think all the tests that I had before in my body, it had run out because I'd stopped taking it a couple weeks before that. And then even though I was on the trenbolone, my sex drive really went down, but I really did want to, and also I started feeling sleepy, and I started feeling groggy, can't really think straight, kind of like my creativity was kind of capped. And what happened was that my estrogen crashed, and then my brain can't do the signaling because there's no compound producing estrogen in my cycle. So what I did was I added 5 to 10 milligrams of D-bol per day. D-bol does aromatize into a potent estrogen, and that actually fixed everything. So I was able to think clearly again. I was not overly tired or groggy, and my sex drive went back. But still, my sex drive wasn't as good as if I had been using testosterone, which was actually pretty interesting. But it was sufficient. It was sufficient, for sure. All right, so basically I explained some of the effects of what it feels like to crash your estrogen. And the first thing that you'll notice when your estrogen is crashed is you'll wake up and you'll be like, geez, like I have no power, right? Like standing up and getting up and walking over to the fridge is going to be something you don't want to do. Whereas normally, right, that's something you want to do. But that's going to be something you do not want to expend energy. And you're also going to be unexplainably sleepy, where you're going to be like, you just won't feel like you rested after you slept. And you'll drink coffee and just nothing changes. The coffee does not have an effect on the way you feel, and you're just tired. And it just goes on like that. It usually goes on for a few days. Usually 3 to 5 days it'll take to recover it after it's been crashed. There's some hacks, obviously, like, taking these hacks are not safe hacks to get the estrogen back up quickly, but obviously taking something like fast-acting testosterone in a high dosage will cause your body to produce more aromatase enzyme to combat that, which will get your estrogen back quicker. And I've also experimented with using like a higher dosage of D-bol, just like in a blast, like in one dosage, to try and, because it does aromatize heavily when you do that. And that worked too, but it worked to speed it up. There's no way that once your estrogen is crashed, you can't just get it back and just, by using one of those hacks like that and then be fine again. You have to wait it out. And that's one of the reasons why, when my estrogen does get high, I don't panic and I don't start taking a lot of high dosage aromatase inhibitor right away, because once it is crashed, That's it. Now you have to wait it out, which is really shitty. So like I said, the main thing that you will know when you have a crash estrogen is that you are going to have no power. You do not want to walk. You do not want to get up to go to the bathroom. You do not want to train and go to the gym. You're going to be ridiculously sleepy. You will wake up and feel like you did not sleep, and you'll be thinking, why am I so tired? And then another thing that is going to happen is your creativity or like some of your, I guess, more the thinking of coming up with new ideas and shit like that. It just feels like there's some kind of a limit on your head where you are not capable of using your brain to its full capacity. I know it sounds weird, but I mean it's true. Estrogen modulates a lot of brain and nerve functions. It's necessary for men and it's necessary for women. We need to have it in small amounts. The main thing though is just that the power, that your erection is not going to be working either. If you crash your estrogen, you will not be able to have a hard penis, and I think you can probably still still climax, but it'll be with a limp noodle. So that's going to be. And another thing with that is that if you are able to get an erection, it probably won't stick around for a very long time. It'll be very transient, right? So it's not a fun situation. Crashing your estrogen is something that is extremely uncomfortable, and I suggest doing whatever you can to make that not happen. So taking high doses of aromatase inhibitors will make that happen. Another thing with the aromatase inhibitors, one way to avoid this from happening is when you do feel like, oh shit, like I have a high estrogen, right? Like maybe you wake up and your nipple is swollen, and you may be bloated, and you notice subcutaneous water under your skin. The initial reaction is obviously going to be, okay, I need to take a high dosage of aromatase inhibitor to get this handled now. And then, it probably will not go away after one day. You're going to have to do that again, the next day, and maybe again the next day. It depends on how strong it is. But this approach is incorrect because this approach, the aromatase inhibitors, they have a long action to them. So, for example, Arimidex and Letrozole both have half-lives of like 3 days. And then for Exemestane, Aromacin, it has a much shorter half-life. But what its mechanism of action does is actually, instead of just binding to and immobilizing the aromatase enzyme makes estrogen, guys. So Aromacin is different than the other ones. It doesn't just bind to it, it actually destroys it so that the body cannot make estrogen. It's not just binding, here's the enzyme, and now here's your aromatase inhibitor, right? So Letrozole and Arimidex go to the enzyme here, they bind with it, and then they float around in the bloodstream binded with it like this, and make it so that that aromatase enzyme cannot find testosterone, methandrostenolone, equipoise, DECA, whatever it is in your body that is able to create estrogen, these aromatazing sex hormones. Once this aromatase inhibitor is bound to that aromatase enzyme, it's floating around your bloodstream, this enzyme is not able to connect with any of those other aromatizable hormones. So that's how they work. And then with Aromacin, what it does is it binds with the aromatase enzyme, and then it destroys the enzyme. So now, poof, no more enzyme in your blood, right? And then your body has to regenerate the aromatase enzyme by creating more of it, rather than just waiting like with Arimidex or Letrozole. After a few days, it will start to unbind, and the estrogen and the aromatase enzyme are now back available in your bloodstream again, instead of being abolished, destroyed, taken out of the body the way that Aromacin does. So these things have the effects build up over time. So say I take, let's say for example, I have really high estrogen, I'm worried about gyno, and I notice that my face is puffy. I wake up in the morning and I have like pink spots, where like I was sleeping or something like that. So it left a mark because I have subcutaneous water. So I go, shit, And let's say, I'm giving an example here, guys. This is not something I do, but I'm doing this for the purpose of letting you know a scenario. So I take a milligram of Arimidex. All right, the next day, I feel a little bit better, but I still definitely have high estrogen. So I take another milligram of Arimidex. All right, and then I'm starting to feel like, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel really good. The next day, in the morning, I take another, so that's 3 days in a row, another milligram of Arimidex, because on that previous day, I still had, maybe my nipples were itchy, or my dick wasn't acting the way it should have. These are sex hormones, guys. They have wild effects all over your whole body. And so, now I've taken it 3 days in a row. And, I took the Arimidex in the morning on that third day. And by nighttime, I'm like, damn, I'm like perfect hormonal right now. Like my estrogen is in the perfect spot, super high sex drive. Penis works at 110%. And, I'm not getting any subcutaneous water. I wake up and I'm, looking the way I want to. Okay? So then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh, I feel really sleepy. Like what the fuck? And then you go, oh, I'm gonna go to a coffee shop. I'm gonna just drag myself out of bed because I don't know why. I just slept 8 hours, but I feel like shit. So you drag yourself out of bed and go to the coffee shop and you drink a big coffee, right? Venti. And once this coffee's in you, you're like, I don't feel it. I feel nothing. And you're like, this is weird. And so then, this goes on for another day and you're like, what the fuck? And then you're like, what the hell? Like my penis doesn't work well anymore, but I haven't even taken any more aromatase inhibitor. And it was perfect to the last time I took it. 12 hours after the last time I took my aromatase inhibitor, I had the perfect estrogen levels. And since then I haven't taken any more, but now I'm getting all these shit side effects. I feel fuzzy. I don't want to get up or walk anywhere. I don't want to go to the gym and train. Feel like shit. All right. But basically what happened is those long half-lives are all adding up and having a cumulative effect on the body. And what happened was that the Arimidex that I took on, the first day, it's still active on that third day. And by the time that all 3 of those doses come up, then they're all at full power because, that dosage on Monday, it's probably in full power still on Wednesday. But that Wednesday dosage isn't on full power until Thursday, and it stays on full power, until maybe Saturday morning or something like that. So then, basically I have like a delayed onset crashed estrogen. And it's very confusing for people that, if you don't get blood work done, so you don't know whether or not you have crashed estrogen, or a lot of bodybuilders do not get blood work. It's the reality. It's not the right way to do it, but it's the reality. So I'm telling you guys anecdotal things right now to help you if you're in that group. And so once you feel that way, it's very confusing. And why do I feel that way? And basically, all you can do is wait it out, or you could take a little bit of extra aromatizing sex hormones to try and speed up that process a bit. But it's very shitty. It's one of the worst feelings that you can have with using anabolic hormones. And yeah, I don't recommend it. So those are the things to watch out for. And then as far as preventing it from happening, the number one thing to do would be to always keep a small amount of aromatizing hormone in your stack. So like I said, when I used Trenbolone only, which for me creates no estrogen, I used 5 to 10 milligrams of Dianabol per day, and that fixed the problems that I was having, the classic low estrogen symptoms that I was having. Just adding in that tiny bit of D-bol. Another thing that would work, if you didn't want to use an aromatizing compound, but you needed some estrogen. So say if instead of D-bol, I maybe put in 100 milligrams of testosterone long ester a week, that would have worked too. And then there's other things that aromatize very slowly. Like one of my friends, actually several of my friends just recently ran DECA only cycles all of them I think were running it above 1.5 grams per week though. So when they did that, DECA does aromatize very slightly, so they didn't need to add anything else, right? But for something like Masteron or Primobolan or Winstrol or Anavar or what else does it aromatize? I'm not even going to go over it right now. But any of these non-aromatizable compounds, if there's not some aromatizable compounds in there, you will get some of these effects. They may be more severe or less severe for you. Hormonal side effects, obviously, for everyone are extremely variable. But I can just tell you that it's not a fun situation. And like I said, avoiding it would be to put in a little bit of aromatizing compound in each one of your cycles and making sure it's there. And then the other thing would be to not aggressively dose aromatase inhibitors. You should really try to be cautious with their dosing. Blood work is the #1 way to take care of this. It's the only way to know for sure is getting blood work and dosing your aromatase inhibitor, dosing your testosterone, whatever, in accordance with that blood work. But for those of you who are not doing that, this is some kind of experiences that I can share with you guys that can help, get that, speed up you learning basically what it feels like, all these different high estrogen, low estrogen, blah, 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 blah. All right, so this is Dan from Bodybuilder in Thailand.com.